The following story is a real case. Out of respect for the victims and their families, their names have been omitted. The state of Victoria, in Australia, is a vibrant and diverse region, known for its strong economy based on industry, services, and agriculture. Its capital, Melbourne, is a hub for manufacturing, technology, education, healthcare, and tourism. It is precisely in this last sector, tourism, that our story takes place. The year was 2014. Several hotels in Victoria were going through difficult times. Rising operating costs, energy, wages, insurance, maintenance, and shrinking profit margins led to the closure of many hotels, especially older, smaller, and independent ones. In June of that year, the Old Rochester Hotel in Victoria closed its doors for good. What no one knew at the time was that this closure would also become the backdrop for a tragedy. During the dismantling of the hotel's old air conditioning systems, an accident occurred that took the lives of 2 technicians. It was a devastating event, but not an accident. It was the result of a chain of poor decisions, lack of training, absence of protocols, and regulatory gaps. It all began in the hotel basement, a closed and poorly ventilated space, where the 2 technicians were removing an old air conditioning unit that had been leaking for years. They knew the system well, as the same 2 technicians had regularly returned to refill the refrigerant and restart the equipment. However, many months before the accident, something changed. One of the technicians, an auto mechanic with no expertise in commercial HVAC systems, had modified the unit in search of a solution to the lack of R12, a refrigerant that was obsolete and no longer available, but still theoretically used by the old system. As an alternative, the technician chose a commercial blend marketed as a direct R12 replacement, mainly intended for domestic refrigerators that use only a small amount of gas. What the technician didn't know was that the blend he had begun using regularly contained R600a isobutane and R290 propane, both flammable refrigerants classified as A3. Although there was a safer replacement available, such as R134a, it required changing the compressor oil and making a few modifications, something the technician likely wanted to avoid due to the age of the system. So, he opted for a replacement blend that didn't require changing the oil or the expansion device, making it seem like a convenient, but dangerous, choice. With a persistent leak in the system and a sealed, unventilated basement, the concentration of flammable gases increased steadily. The flammable mixture was recharged several times, and it is believed that the accumulated quantity inside the system far exceeded safety limits. On the day of the accident, the conditions were ripe for disaster. The source of ignition was simple, everyday, but deadly: a cigarette lighter, lit by one of the technicians during the job. In an atmosphere saturated with flammable gases, that spark was enough. The explosion was instantaneous. Both technicians died on the spot. The tragedy left a deep mark on the industry. This story is a painful reminder of what can happen when the risks of working with flammable refrigerants are underestimated. Prevention, training, and respect for safety protocols can be the difference between life and death. Flammable refrigerants can be very safe, as long as all safety guidelines are followed and good maintenance practices are upheld. Whenever you use a replacement refrigerant, check the components of the blend and make sure it is fully compatible with the system. Remember, never charge a flammable refrigerant into equipment that was not designed for it. Whenever performing maintenance, work in well-ventilated areas, do not smoke, and always use the proper tools and equipment for the job. If vacuuming is required, use the correct vacuum equipment.